Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Judy Tuttle here from Tuttle Up Stamping. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in Midland, Texas, and I'm excited to create with you today. Yesterday, I did a swap showcase in the morning, and then I did my unboxing of all the new products that will be coming out in May for customers in the afternoon, but I just couldn't let a week go by without creating with you. So today I'm going to be doing a little bit of creating. Before I start, I mentioned yesterday wrongly that the perennial lavender DSP was leaving us. In 15 years of Stampin' Up, I've only once seen them carry over a designer series paper from one catalog to another. This year, however, I was proven wrong. They are carrying over 5 of the current catalog DSPs into the next catalog or into the online store, whichever. So Winter's Meadow was a DSP. Here, let me find you on my computer real quick so I can see comments and see if you're here with me, all of that good stuff. There we go, right there. Okay, so Winter's Meadow will be returning. Perennial Lavender, I was wrong about that, is returning. The Countryside Inn, that's the blues with the balmy blue, navy blue, white, and some have flowers, some have little bunnies. It's super cute paper. That is returning. The Bright and Beautiful paper that went with the beautiful balloons is returning. And Nature's Sweetness that I am working with today will also be returning. Okay, so we do have 5 packs of designer series paper that will be returning into the new catalog, which is great, right? Like I sometimes feel like I don't even get a chance to use them and they're gone, right? So that's an exciting development that surprised me. Honestly, on stage was such a whirlwind. I didn't really have a time to sit down and really soak up the catalog, soak up the last chance list and all of that. Our last chance list came out yesterday, and that's a list of everything that will be going away. Some of them they will discount and some of them they won't. So all of these ink colors right here, the Starry Sky, Sweet Sorbet, Tahitian Tide, Parakeet Party, and Orchid Oasis, those are leaving, as will the ink pads and the blends and the re-inkers. So if you want to keep those ink pads around for a while, you need to buy the re-inkers for those, okay? Because that will be going away. And those re-inkers sell out fast, okay? So get your hands on some now if you think you want them. I'm serious. It might, in a week, they might be gone. So get your re-inkers for the outgoing 22-24 ink colors if you want to keep them around a little bit longer. All right. Okay. I'm going to move my camera down, do some flipping and flopping here as I usually do. There we go. All right. So today's cards, I hope you love them. I have 3 cards to show you, are all going to be made with this Nature's Sweetness suite that is in the mini catalog. This mini catalog ends at the end of April. So anything that's not being carried over will be going away. But this suite is sticking around, at least the stamps and the designer series paper. Okay. So one of the stamp sets we'll be using is called Lovely and Sweet. And it has these beautiful, it has a vanilla bean branch, it has a cocoa branch, it has, I can't remember, somebody told me what that was, but I can't remember, I've lost it, sorry. It's some sentiments, it's a very kind of mixed media, kind of, what do I want to say, journal-y looking, old-fashioned maybe a little bit. And then this coordinates with it. It's called the Notes of Nature. Still some more little branches, some mixed media kind of elements to it and some other sentiments in that. And they both have like an awesome set of dies. So one of the sets of dies is this one right here. And you can see it has some journaling type pieces and then branches and little flowers and all kinds of things that you can use to cut out some fun elements. And then this one as well is the other stamp set, which is called Notes of Nature. Okay, Lovely and Sweet and Notes of Nature. So we'll be using this today. And I'll tell you what I did. I looked at some of my swaps that I received at Onstage, and I copied the layout of those swaps to create my cards today. So I'm excited to show you what they did and then what I did with them as well. I also am using today the Stylish Shapes. I'm also using today the Deckled Circles. I showed you this already, the Notes of Nature, and the dies that go with this set, okay? So the card that I received for my first card that I'm going to do with you here is, I think I'll do this one first, is this one right here. And what I really loved about this is I like the kind of graphic design on it. How they used coordinating pieces of designer series paper, a center element there. It's a very simple card, but it's eye-catching, right? So I'm going to show you what I did with it, and then we will create it together. When you come in, let me know you're here. I like to know when people are watching me. I don't feel like I'm so alone. Feel free to comment, weigh in on your opinion. Nothing will hurt. Well, I shouldn't say nothing will hurt my feelings, because some things hurt my feelings. But so this is what I did with it. Okay, so this was the swap that I received, and this is my take on it using the Nature Sweetness dies and elements. Okay, I love the gold in this DSP. There's lots of shiny gold in the DSP, so I decided to use a gold panel behind my DSP pieces. Okay, so I'm starting out with a pretty standard 5.5 by 8.5 piece of pebbled path. And I scored it down the middle at 4 1/4. So that is going to be my card base. Grab a bone folder here. There we go. Then I have a piece of gold that I cut 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. Okay. And then I picked some coordinating pieces of designer series paper. So I have 2 that are this size. And I have 2 that are this size. They are going to go on, it doesn't really matter as long as they are. Now you could use the same DSP for all 4 of those panels if you wanted. But this is the measurements. The small squares are 1.5 by 1.5, and the underneath rectangles are 1.5 by 2 3/4. So whether you decide to mix and match them or not, you want 2 squares that are 1.5 by 1.5 and 2 rectangles that's 1.5 by 2 3/4. So I'm going to take this gold panel here that's 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, and I'm going to add these panels to the top. So I'm just going to add some adhesive to the back here. I'm going to shimmy it up to the corner here so there's about 1/8 of an inch around the side and the top. And I'm going to press that down. I'm going to do the same thing with this coordinating color. But like I said, you wouldn't have to do a coordinating color. You could do all the panels the same color if you wanted to. Okay, so there's that square. And then my rectangles here. This is the bad thing about using CL Plus for this, although you do need a pretty strong adhesive. Once it's down, it's down. There's not much you can do about moving it around. But Seal Plus works better than liquid glue on gold foil. So that's what I chose to use. So I'm just trying to be super careful here on my 4 panels. Okay, so there we go. So that is that center element. Then I'm gonna take this panel and put it on a panel that is 3.5 by 4 3/4, okay? 3.5 by 4 3/4. So I'm just gonna adhere that right onto that panel like that. So I'm gonna add some more Seal Plus. Is anybody out there? I don't know why I'm not seeing anybody saying hello or comments. Let me know if you're here. Maybe I need to refresh my computer. Sometimes I have to do that. Okay. So this is going to be the focal image here of my card. Hi, Brenda. Thanks for joining. Glad to know someone's watching. Thanks. All right. So now this panel, I'm going to pop up right here. So Brenda, I tried to call you earlier today, but I will try again after my video is over. Okay, so I'm going to put dimensionals on this panel. There we go. I'm going to pull some off here. And I'm just going to place that right, kind of centered in that front panel right there. Now, I have from the Deckled Circles, this is them right here. I'm using this size right here. It's about 2 inches around, and I cut it out of pecan pie cardstock, okay? Pecan pie. And I am going to adhere this right in the center of where they cross right there. And so, you know, it kind of covers up a multitude of sins if things aren't perfectly straight right in the center right there. Place that right there. Then we have one of our designer series papers has all of these gold. You can see it. You get that branch that's there. You get the cocoa bean. You get the vanilla. I cut one of those pieces out of there, the foiled cocoa branch, and I'm going to grab the die that coordinates with it right here. And I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. So I'm going to place it on there, get everything the way I want it. There we go. I'm going to grab a piece of my Post-it note tape. You guys know I can't live without this stuff. Make sure I get it on straight there. There we go. I'm going to run it right here to my die cutting machine that's right next to me off camera. And I'm going to roll that through. I love when they make the dies that coordinate with the designer series paper. It can make it really easy to die cut out shapes. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that out of there. There we go. There's my cocoa bean. And I'm going to color it in a different way. They've really encouraged us to start playing with color. So I have something called a blender pen. These are alcohol-based pens. Well, that's not true. It's a water-based pen, and it's called a blender pen. It's clear ink inside of it, but I'm going to show you what you can do with it. So I'm going to start with my Old Olive ink pad. And let me get just a scratch sheet of paper here. Here we go. And I'm going to pick up just some ink with a corner of this blender pen. I like that. Get the most of it off. And then I'm going to come in here and right over those leaves, you can just color it in. You can pick up any color you want. You could use any color ink pad you want. And then you just brush the blender pen off until the ink runs dry out of it. It comes back out clear. And then you can use it again on a different stamp ink pad. Okay, so I'm just coloring those leaves in here with my old olive. I could have used blends, but I wanted a little more of a rustic look to it. So I think these blender pens do the trick. Let me get those little tiny leaves that are up here. Have any of you played with your blender pens? All right, so I'm just gonna clean that off until it runs clear. There we go. And then I'm going to use my pebbled path for the cocoa beans here. So I'm going to pull up the other end of my blender pen. I'm going to get that branch right there. And then these cocoa pods here. There we go. There we go. You could watercolor these. You could use blends. I'm just choosing to use this blender pen technique today on these, trying something new. All right, so now I'm going to take this branch and I'm going to add some dimensionals and I'm going to set it right there in the center of that pecan pie deckled circle. I'm going to add a little gold bow and then we can play with the inside. So the outside of this card doesn't have a sentiment on it, and although I rarely do that, today I just really wanted this this element, this cocoa bean element, to be the center of attention. So I purposely did not put a sentiment on the outside of this. I just felt like everywhere I put it, it kind of took away from the showcase of the foliage in the center. So that was a choice I made. Okay, so I'm taking some gold elegant trim. I use this elegant trim a lot, many times not by itself, many times with maybe some linen trim or there we go, put that away. And I'm going to grab a glue dot and I'm going to attach this right here in the center. Of that branch right there. So that'll be the front of my card. I like to press that trim in really hard onto that glue dot so it stays put. All right. Now the inside of my card, I decided it's going to be a panel that is 4 by 5 1/4. And I am going to take that coffee bean pod again, grab this scratch sheet of paper, and my pebbled path ink pad, and I'm going to ink it up. I should have this on camera right here. I'm going to ink it up. I'm going to stamp it off, and then I'm going to stamp it right here in that bottom right corner like that. Okay, so it kind of mirrors, you know me, I like to mirror what's going on in front. And then I thought this looked like it would be a beautiful sympathy card. So I'm going to stamp "So Sorry" right here. But it could be a lot of reasons you're sorry, right? Maybe they lost their job or things just aren't going right. And then I have a little piece of that DSP that I used on the front, a 1/2 inch by 5 1/4 inches. And I'm just going to attach it off here to the side to create a really pretty inside element on this card. Okay. There we go. Got a little bit off the edge there. All right. There we go. Now I can attach the whole panel to the inside of the card. Right here. Looks like I got a little edge on that ink pad when I was messing with it, but that's okay. That's why you should shut your ink pads when you're done with them. Right there. I can erase that off here in a little bit. So that is our first card. What do you guys think of that? Do you like it? And this is the card. Look how different these look. That I used as my kind of card sketch. So 2 different papers and designs, but you know, the same layout. Okay, so that is going to be my first card. The second card is this one right here. I got this in a card sketch over the weekend, and I really like, don't you like how those points go in like that? I really like the design of that card as well. So I created this card here. Same layout, but I'm using different colors, different elements, but essentially it is the same card. Oh, I put a piece of tape there so when I took the picture of it, it would stay shut. And here's my inside. Isn't that pretty? I love it. Okay, so let me put this one aside and we can start with this card. I've got the measurements here for you. And we're ready to go. All right, so what you need is a card base that is 5 1/2 by 11, and then I scored it in 2 places. I scored it at 3 1/2 and 7 1/2, okay? 3 1/2 and 7 1/2. So it's gonna create kind of this panel fold like this, but we need to cut this into a triangle here and a triangle here. So what I did is I marked, I don't know if you can see it right here, the center of this edge. So this is 5 1/2, so the center is at 2 3/4, and I did that on both sides, 2 3/4, right in the middle. I've got a little pencil mark right there. And then I'm gonna grab my paper trimmer. I think our paper trimmers are great with this. I like to do mine this way. Everybody has their own way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the score line here with that center mark right there. So I'm going to just put the center mark in that alley of our cutting plate here. And then I'm just going to pull it and create that angle. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So we're going to do this 4 times. That center mark at 2 3/4 and the score line right here. Line those up in the galley is what they call that. And there we go. There's our triangle. Okay. Do the same thing on this side. Center with the score line. And this side, the center with the score line. There we go. Okay, so then I've got that panel with the 2 triangles on either side. I'll put that away for a second. Next, the inside of this panel right here is actually 4 inches wide, so it's a 1/4 inch smaller than a typical card. But the nice thing about that is it gives us a way to use just one sheet of paper. I would have to use different measurements, right? A different width here, and then our triangles would be too small to overlap in the center. All right, so I have a piece of basic white that's a little skinnier than usual. Usually in the inside we go 4 by 5 1/4. We're going 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. Okay, and this is going to go on the inside. And for the inside, I've got this leaf from the Notes of Nature right there. And I am using a sentiment from Notes of Nature that says, "Thanks for making me smile." So that's going to go on the inside. So I am using Lost Lagoon. That's the color of this cardstock right here. Lost Lagoon. And I'm going to stamp it twice. I'm going to stamp it in the upper center going that way. And I'm going to stamp it in that way. Then this sentiment that says, "Thanks for making me smile," I'm going to stamp that in Pebbled Path. I'm going to kind of do it right in the center there. There we go. So that's going to be the inside of our card. And I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that to the inside with some Seal Plus. There we go, and see the flaps will go like this, and then that panel I put on the front will cover up that leafy pattern there, if all is good and right in the world. Okay, now I have a panel of Pebbled Path that's cut 4 1/4 by 3, and I have a panel of DSP, and this is a panel that has a little gold in it, just a tiny bit, just some little scribble marks, and then you can see that Pebbled Path like splatters inside. I am going to adhere this, that gold leaf is pretty too, isn't it, to the inside of this Pebbled Path panel. Pebbled Path panel. That's some alliteration there. And then I cut a piece of that 2-inch deckled circle, same side I used on the last one. This is in Petal Pink. It's in Petal Pink. So I'm just going to attach this to the center here of this panel right here. About maybe a little upper center, like right there. All right, now you're going to get another piece of white, and it only needs to be about 4 by 3 3/4. And we are going to take out our Pebbled Path ink pad and this large branch. If any of you know what the name of this flower is, I would appreciate it. It's totally left my brain. There we go. So pretty, right? And you would grab the die of that branch right here, put it on there, run it through the die cutting machine, and voila, by the magic of television, I have one done already. There we go. Now this time, since this is Pebbled Path, it's a watercolor based ink, I decided to just use my markers. So I am taking a Petal Pink and I'm just coloring in just the very most inside of these flowers, okay? Just to give a little color coming from the inside in Pebble Pink. There we go. Then for the branches, I am just coloring in the leaves here, just that very center vein. And the stem. Okay, that's all I wanted to do on that. Okay, so did I get them all out? It looks like it. Then I'm going to place the stem right over that spotlight. That's what I'm calling that circle. Kind of spotlights the branch, right? And it really does bring out the pink in the center of those flowers. So I'm going to add some dimensionals on the back side of this branch. Thank you, Brenda. I thought it did too. I thought the spotlight in that petaled pink color really makes those flowers pop. I agree. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put my plant right over my spotlighted circle. Isn't that pretty? And wait till I get it onto my card. You're really going to love it. All right. So now I have a piece of basic white cut 3/4 by 4. And I'm using the sentiment that says just a little note to say hello. And I'm going to stamp that on this 3/4. Hi, Chelsea. Thanks for joining us. I'm doing cards with the Nature's Sweetness Sweet today. Here we go. Just a note to say hello. Isn't that pretty? I love Lost Lagoon. I love all the colors that are in this suite. I'm a gold person, so I'm cutting this on a diagonal on either end here, just like that. And I cut just a tiny little piece of petal pink ribbon. This comes in a duo pack with lemon lime ribbon as well. Coordinates with the Zany Zoo suite, but I've been using it on a lot. I'm going to use it on my Xenia class this week. Lots of great things that this ribbon can go with. And then I'm just going to cut these ends down just a little bit to about 1/4 of an inch off that center sentiment. Thank you, Chels. Okay, so I'm going to add here some dimensionals on the back of this. Maybe that's all I need because it's going to go over that branch. There we go, right like that. I have some of these foiled dots, and these are carrying over next year's catalog as well. I love that because these dots really pop and go with anything. I think they coordinate with everything, so I've enjoyed using them. I like that these have gold in them, and it kind of, maybe I'll put it right there on my little label there. Okay, there we go. So now this is going to go right here on the front of my card, but I only wanted to adhere to this very top panel right here. So I'm just going to go to that triangle part right there, and I'm going to add adhesive that's flat right in the center right there. And then I'm going to decide where I want this, top, bottom, left, right, and I'm just going to press it in. Almond tree. Thank you, Brenda. There you go. Hi, Cindy. Thanks for coming to my live today. So here's the second card. I think that sentiment looks a little crooked, so I'm going to move it down a little bit. Okay. And then it opens like this and like that. Do you guys like that? I really liked the layout of that. And it's really not hard. It looks harder than it is, doesn't it? Okay, so that is card number 2. Let me put this to the side here. And then my very last card I'm using the layout of this swap card that I got over the weekend. And again, it's a fancy fold, but so easy to do. You guys are going to love this. The hardest part is deciding what papers and colors to use for sure. All right, so here is, my pieces all fell out here. Move that off to the side. Here is my take on that sketch. Only thing that's the same is that I used Moody Mauve as a base. So it's going to open like this and like that, using the notes of nature. Okay, so let me give you some measurements here. The first is your card base, and it is cut 8 1/4. So you're going to just take 1/4 of an inch off the width of your cardstock by 4 1/4. 4 1/4 by 8 1/4. And then you're going to score it at 5 1/2 and fold it like this. Now in this card, that fold line is going to be to the right. Okay? That fold line is going to be to the right. Then you want to pick several pieces of coordinating designer series paper. So the first one I chose was, I got my sticky notes messed up here. Here we go. The first one I chose is this piece right here, white with like cross hatches of gold in it. It is 2 1/2 by 4. 2 1/2 by 4. And this piece is going to go right here on this front panel. Okay? Right like that. Okay, the next thing I'm going to focus on is the inside of my card. And it is 4 by 5 1/2. And what I chose to do is to use that same crosshatch pattern right here. But I'm going to just stamp this left edge of this in our pebbled path. And I'm going to stamp, let me get my paper scraps here, it right off to the side, right here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just meant to look really mixed media-ish, okay? So there we go. And I don't need anything else because that is almost the only thing that's going to show here off on that edge there, okay? So I'm going to adhere this to the inside of the card. And remember, your scored edge is on the right. Shouldn't be so hard to say, but it was for some reason. Okay, there we go. So there's the top part of my card. Now I can start working on the inside panel. The inside panel is 2 3/4 by 8 1/2. So 2 3/4 wide by 8 1/2. But we're scoring it in 3 places here. We're scoring it at 3 1/2, 4 1/4, and 5. 3 1/2, 4 1/4, and 5. And that's going to create kind of that bookbinding fold on that edge right there. So fold it in half, and then this front panel, fold it back on itself and score it really well, okay? We're going to take the inside portion right here, and we're going to add some glue right to that. And you could do both sides, although you probably don't really need to. And we're going to just press that together, and that's going to create that bookbinding fold, okay? Then I took another coordinating piece of that DSP, and this one is like a typewritten with some gold splatters, and this is 1/2 by 4. 1/2 by 4, and it's going to go right here on this edge, this bookbinding edge here. Right there, okay? Then I've got another piece of DSP that's 3 1/4 by 2 1/2. So none of these DSPs are the same, although they could be. But in this case, I made them all coordinating, but a little different. Okay, so I'm gonna, and I love gold. So you guys know I'm gonna use that gold piece there. There you go. Right there. Now for the inside, I cut a piece of basic white that is also 3 1/4 by 2 1/2. But before I put it on the inside of this bookbinding panel, I'm going to stamp these little kind of thistle flowers right here in the corner, right there, in Pebbled Path. Okay, and now I can adhere this to the inside of that bookbinding part. Right there, like that. Okay. Now, this whole entire bookbinding panel is going to go on the inside right here of our card base, okay? And just kind of centered, top, bottom, side to side. So we're going to put adhesive over the entire back of this. So you really want this to hold tight. And then you're going to center it here on that card panel right there, and press really hard. And then this will open up, this will go in, this will fold down. Okay, pretty cool, huh? It's kind of a joy fold with a twist, because I've never seen one with like a bookbinding edge on it right here. All right, I have cut a whole bunch of these leafy pieces here. I've cut some branches out of Pebbled Path. And I probably won't use all of these, but I'll definitely use some of them. So all these branches out of Pebbled Path, probably more than I need. And then a few out of gold foil. More smaller kind of, maybe just a touch of gold to add to those branches, okay? So I'm going to take my Seal Plus, and I'm going to put it right in the center of that panel, and I'm just going to start building these branches to the upper left corner and the lower right corner. They don't have to be perfectly symmetrical. They can be a little different on both corners. Let me see, I'm going to put this one maybe that way. And then add a few of those gold elements, branches to it as well. Maybe this one might need a little bit more tape right there. Okay. And here a little more down this way with the gold. There we go, like that. All right. I've cut a banner using the Stylish Shapes. This is the largest and longest of the Stylish Shapes banners. It's this bigger piece right here out of basic white. And I'm going to stamp on that this day Today is all about you. Happy birthday. Thank you, Brenda. I love it too. I think it's a fun fold. I'm using Pebbled Path for my sentiment. So for all of these cards, I only used Lost Lagoon, Pebbled Path, and a little bit of Old Olive ink for all the cards. All right, so now I'm going to pop this up right here over those branches. Isn't that pretty? I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. And let me grab some dimensionals here. Thanks, Chelsea. I'm glad you liked it. I liked the layout of it from my swap card that I got. Okay, so then that's going to go right there in the middle. So pretty, right? So it'll open like this and like this. You can write a little note in here. So precious. And then I'm going back to those adhesive gold dots. And I'm going to add some gold foil dots to the front of this card. I'm going to put one down here. I'm going to put a little one right up here. And then I think I put 5 on this card. Another one right here. And another up here. 1, 2, and then one more kind of right in that spot right there. Okay. So there you have it. There's my 3 cards of the day using the Nature Sweetness Suite. I'll put them all out here so you can get a good look at what they all look like. This week's host code is URV234VS. If you make a purchase in my online store using that host code, then you can get this card class to go, and I will... I know, right? It's crazy. I don't know how they do either. I am always inspired by others, Cindy, all the time. I rarely come up with my own layouts. And we don't need to, right? That's the beauty of it, is that there are people who can do that. And those of us who can't, we make them our own by changing up the papers and the embellishments and the colors, and I really fell in love with all of these cards. So let me move the camera up. If I can help you in any way as your demonstrator, I would be happy to help you. And I won't see you again till next Monday, next week on Monday. And thank you so much for giving me your time yesterday with the swaps and the unboxing, and giving me your time today to create with me with these beautiful Nature Sweetness Sweet cards. And God bless. I'm getting my newsletter out a little late today because this Facebook Live is a little later than usual. So if you're expecting my newsletter, it will be coming this afternoon. Information about the last chance list, about upcoming classes, and about this online class to go. So God bless everybody. See you next Monday. Bye-bye.